everyone, today I wanted to share with you the easiest scrunchie tutorial I could come up with. I've tried a couple different patterns and styles and this one is definitely the easiest. Might not look the nicest just the way that we finish it, but it's definitely the easiest. So all you're going to need for this is a piece of fabric. Mine's already cut, but I'll give you the dimensions in a second. A ruler to measure the fabric, and either a needle and thread to hand sew it or a sewing machine to machine sew it. I'm going to machine sew it. And then also a pair of scissors, and you'll also need an elastic, like a hair elastic, but it was on my wrist and I forgot to share it, but that red one there is the one that I'm going to use. So to cut your fabric, I'm just measuring it so I can give you the dimensions of mine. So this is 26 centimeters and that was half of it. So my dimensions for the little piece that I'm using is 52 centimeters by 8.5 centimeters. If you want it to be more scrunchy, do a longer piece, and if you want it to be a thinner or a thicker scrunchie, do a wider piece. Like, you can change how scrunched it is and also how big and bulky it is. So I just decided to go with a sort of standard size. So what we're going to do is take the hair elastic and sort of fold the material over the elastic. So we want the elastic to be inside the material, so we want it to be all around in a circle. So I'm just going to show you here how I'm sort of going to do it. You can pin it if you want, but I find this sort of thing easier to just not pin and just adjust as you go. As you can see here, what I'm going to do is sew along that top edge, and then it'll sort of look like this and scrunch all up together. Just want to sew it in little batches, sewing a little bit of the fabric, adjusting it, making sure that you're not sewing over the elastic, and then sewing down the edge. Just adjusting it as you go, and it'll be pretty easy. Like I said before, you can pin it if you'd like, but I find it's a lot easier if you don't pin it and you just adjust as you go and fiddle around with it. After you've sewn it all up, we're going to use a safety pin, which I forgot to mention in the materials list, to turn in the right way. So just put it on one layer of the fabric on one of the ends, and we're just going to feed it through the middle of the fabric all the way out to the other end. You might have to fiddle around with it a little bit just to make the fabric go through nicely, but it should go through pretty well if you've left enough room for it to scrunch up. I'm now just cutting off all the threads so they don't get in the way when we sew up the scrunchie closed. It's just a lot easier if you do it as you go rather than cutting them all at once. Now the next part you're just going to have to kind of watch, because I'm not going to be very good at explaining it, but we're basically going to fold over one of the loops, or one of the ends, and make it so the edge is nice and folded over, not raw edge. So I kind of got my hands in the way when I was videoing it, but I hope you can sort of understand what I mean. I'm just folding in the edge to make that a nice clean edge all around that little loop or the circle of that end. And then after I've got that sort of nice and flat, it doesn't have to be perfect, just as best you can do, then I'm going to put the other end with the raw edge inside it. So I hope that sort of made sense. Like I said, it's a bit hard to explain, but hopefully you can see what I did. And then I'm just going to sew down that line just over the elastic, back and forth a little bit so it stays in place. And after you cut off the final threads, your scrunchie is done. You can make as many of these as you want. I used a hair elastic for the inside, but you could totally use like just a normal piece of elastic and sew it in a loop. I just thought the hair elastic was easier to show you all. But yeah, I'm very happy with how it turned out, and I hope it's easy enough for you guys to do. And it should be easy enough to do with hand sewing as well, so that's why I thought this way was the easiest I could think of. So I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll talk to you all later.